Here's my theory on movies.
Do you want me to tell you?
You lose!
Oh, hi there. My name is Prostetnik Vogon Jeffs, and in this video, I'm talking about a movie that genuinely gave me a splitting headache. A movie so insipid it makes Pauly Shore movies seem intelligent.
That was harsh.
A movie that tries to make the audience empathize with world leaders after decades of blatant corruption and profiteering. A movie from the not evil at all folks at Amazon. That's right, in this video I'm talking about the cinematic stupidity of G20. To everyone who watched this movie, I apologize. I apologize to you because I know the people responsible for creating it won't. And boy oh boy, do you deserve an apology. What an absolute horror show. For those who haven't seen it, congratulations. G20 is an action thriller directed by Patricia Riggin and written by Caitlin Parrish, Erica Weiss, Logan Miller, and Noah Miller. And there's not a single active brain cell between the five of them. The film stars Viola Davis as an army vet turned president who has to John McClane her way through a terrorist assault on the G20 summit. It also stars Anthony Anderson, Anthony Starr, Elizabeth Marvel, and Clark Gregg, all of whom turn in some of the weakest performances of their careers.
This will look very damning.
Okay, let's not beat around the bush with this one. Cue the recap.
This movie is terrible, and I'm going to spoil the shit out of it.
Alright, G20 goes hard into the cliches from the get-go. Crypto, blockchain, Bitcoin. A shady deal goes sideways in a church in Budapest. God, why is it always a church? Why is it always Budapest? Budapest.
I am a reasonable person. I don't know what you are planning. But I'm not your errand girl!
This dialogue is just awful. And look at this guy. Who runs with a gun like that? Okay, well, this lady has a crypto wallet and Homelander wants it for reasons. He manhandles her in a busy bar and no one notices, but Budapest, right? I guess it checks out. I mean, it doesn't, but let's not dwell on this. Back in the US of A, President Viola Davis deals with her rebellious teenage daughter, who also happens to be a genius tech expert lady person thing. Classic Mary Sue setup. Instant migraine. Great. We're off to a fantastic start. If you're looking for a good drinking game, take a shot every time someone says RFID.
Make sure you get that RFID hardware.
Looks like Serena hacked in, made her own RFID key.
You use RFID?
RFID allows us to monitor movement around the property.
Or makes a vague reference to something technical of which they clearly have zero knowledge. Beta husband, beta son, mother and daughter drama, some martial arts training to establish that President Viola Davis isn't your average president.
Not bad.
Tough enough to take on an entire platoon of mercenaries. Oh wait, hold on. I'm getting ahead of myself. After breakfast with Joanna, the Treasury Secretary and President Davis's friend, it's time for a press conference.
In many sub-Saharan countries, farmers don't have the access to banking that we do.
Oh, we're talking about South African farmers, are we? Wasn't expecting a movie like this to tackle genocide, but oh, what's that? I'm sorry. Oh, we're not actually talking about all the farmers being, no? Okay. I mean, it is an Amazon Prime movie after all, so generic South African farmer problem that isn't genocide is going to be solved how?
We want to offer them a solution in digital currency.
Ah, a digital currency. Interesting.
It's secure and easy to use.
Very interesting. And reporters being reporters, the questions that come in are about the president's rebellious daughter and not about the implementation of a digital currency and how that would actually help South African farmers.
Any comment on the video trending of your underage daughter being apprehended by Secret Service at a Georgetown bar last night?
No more questions?
Madam President.
Thank you.
Oh, again, okay. And this is hilarious. I love how Amazon tries to play it safe by having the Republican senator on CNN identified as an independent.
She does not own the respect of foreign leaders and lacks the diplomacy.
We all know what you're doing, Amazon. You're not fooling anyone. Everyone heads off to Cape Town for the G20 summit. Serena, the president's daughter, is upset she has to go. But President Davis and Joanna are thrilled because
about 100 years ago, neither of us could vote. But here we are, you and I, on the way to G20 on Air Force One.
And Homelander shows up with a platoon of mercenaries as extra security for the summit. You see what's happening here? After settling in, President Viola Davis and First Man Anthony Anderson head to a gala event with the other world leaders. Shortly thereafter, Homelander and his platoon initiate a hostile takeover of the event, seizing control of the facility and eliminating the security details of, 20 other nations? Okay, sure. We've come this far. We might as well see where this nonsense leads.
Being strong is what got us here.
Miraculously, the president, her husband, and her kids all managed to escape capture. Probably not super difficult, as Homelander's team was busy giving his arrival a round of applause.
Yes.
What? The First Man reaches his kids and they all climb to the neighboring balcony, eluding Homelander's henchmen. Oh, God. The president confers with her fellow escapees, Secret Service agent Manny, UK Prime Minister Oliver Everett, South Korean First Lady Han Min-so, and Elena Romano, the head of the International Monetary... Are you f***ing kidding me here? I'm supposed to relate to these asshats? Homelander takes to the airwaves. Well, kinda. He starts live streaming on YouTube.
What we are is a group of individuals who refuse to stand by and let world leaders strip away the rights and wealth of their citizens.
Promising to reveal the corruption of the G20 leaders. And for anyone that can't piece it together, he's a surrogate for those of us who have been arguing against global digital currencies because of their innate ability to be controlled and manipulated.
There has been a major uptick in violent rhetoric around the digital currency element of your agenda.
And because that's not enough to be considered a villain, obviously, Homelander uses the opportunity to push a Bitcoin scam.
It is the only currency that they do not and cannot control.
Of course, he won't say Bitcoin because it needs to be more generic. So instead, he encourages everyone to pull their money from their financial institutions and invest into crypto, which could be anything, even some pyramid scheme shitcoin. I hate this movie so much. The villain's plan is so flawed, it's not even funny. Well, it is kind of funny, I guess. But like some random guy shows up on YouTube and says he's going to off every world leader unless people switch to cryptocurrencies? You know what me and 99% of the world would do? Nothing. We'd go about our day and not give a single solitary shit. Despite all of that, Homelander proceeds to get the world leaders to read out a pangram on camera. Pangrams, or holoalphabetic sentences, use every letter of the alphabet at least once. You're probably familiar with "the quick brown fox jumps over a lazy dog." The South Korean president instantly recognizes it for what it is.
He can use his AI server to make a deep fake that will make it seem like we are saying anything he wants.
Homelander is going to use the recordings to create deepfakes that make it seem like the G20 leaders are corrupt, but...
If we were as guilty as you claim, you would not need deepfakes.
Wait, hold on. All right, I suppose now is a good time to address this. Some of you might be watching this and wondering why it feels so similar to the plot of the recent Daisy Ridley Die Hard knockoff, Cleaner. And to that, I'll say this. I watched that movie on the off chance I could make a video about it. What exactly is your excuse?
Are you high?
Anyway, I gotta skip over some stuff for my own sanity. Milquetoast action scene, Serena literally salvages electronic components from an antenna.
I can pull components from the TV satellites and maybe we can hook a remote network.
Another bland, been there, done that action scene. The First Man is captured. Homelander kills the South Korean president. The First Man is beaten in a scene that reinforces the idea that Hollywood has no idea how two-way radios work.
We want to switch to cryptocurrency so that
This isn't about crypto. You want to crash currencies to get rich? No! Stop! Leave him alone!
Again.
Derek, I love you. Tell the children I love them. I'm in the underground garage.
And Oliver and IMF Lady, while attempting to breach the perimeter of the compound, survive an RPG attack that sends their armored vehicle pirouetting through the sky.
Ciao, bello.
A counteroffensive is initiated. The president gets in a fight with someone that should have crippled her, but remember, she's ex-army and practices judo for an hour or two a day. And after watching her mother in action, Serena has a newfound respect for her.
She's kind of a badass.
But there's no time for admiration. Homelander has the first man and Joanna bound and gagged. I mean, with some of the loosest gags I've ever seen. And trust me, I'd know.
Remember, they're just jokes.
And is threatening their lives.
He has Dad in this big conference room. He has a knife to his throat.
I'm on my way.
President Viola Davis hobbles in to engage in some beautifully ironic debate that, in a better movie, might have actually been insightful.
What I want is a voice.
But when you have the actions of a tyrant, no one's gonna hear your voice.
I mean, how goddamn tone-deaf can one movie get?
People will never believe this.
Homelander's deepfake videos go viral.
One world digital currency will allow us to monitor every movement our citizens make.
And instantly tank the global economy. Within minutes. Let me say that again. Within minutes. Likewise, his crypto wallet, you remember that, don't you, from the beginning of the movie? Well, his crypto wallet value goes through the roof. The first man gets shot. Joanna is a traitor. Homelander gets shivved by the South Korean First Lady. Serena is taken as a hostage. The whole thing gets dumber by the second.
After this, things can only get better.
Seriously, everything just devolves relentlessly. I would say that this movie was made by retards, but that would be an insult to retards.
Shut up.
Homelander falls to his death. Everyone else is fine. A government-controlled digital currency saves the economy. The end. Thank fuck. Alright, normally this is where I would talk about the good and the bad of the movie at hand. But criticizing this movie for its technical failures is just beating a dead horse. It's a cliche-ridden, poorly written female power fantasy that aims to paint world leaders as the good guys, and those who would rise against their authority as the bad guys. I'm oversimplifying, but you get the idea. Now, before we move on, we need to define a few important terms.
Gotcha, bitch!
Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, the format for the evening's event has changed.
Propaganda is defined as information, especially of a biased or misleading nature, used to promote a particular cause, doctrine, or point of view. The word dates from the early 20th century, originating from the modern Latin Congregatio de Propaganda Fide, or Congregation for Propagation of the Faith. A useful idiot is a person that thinks they are fighting for a cause without fully understanding the consequences of their actions, and does not realize they are being manipulated by external forces. The term was popularized during the Cold War to describe non-communists regarded as susceptible to communist propaganda and psychological manipulation. And finally, gaslighting, a term that has become incredibly popular over the past decade, for obvious reasons, is the practice of psychologically manipulating someone into questioning their own sanity, memory, or powers of reasoning. I'm sure you've figured out where this is heading, so let me be blunt. G20 is propaganda developed by useful idiots to gaslight the public into thinking the good guys are the bad guys, and vice versa.
That is the purpose of this meeting, ladies and gentlemen.
And on top of that, as if that wasn't enough, it's a shit movie. It reminded me of 2024's world leader circle jerk, Rumors, a mind-numbingly tedious horror comedy that has the balls to call itself a satire.
I guess I get carried away with my rhetoric. It's a blessing and a curse.
Lampooning world leaders in much the same way that a hack comedian would lampoon self-important managers at a banal corporate event. Teasing with kid gloves on. A poorly executed comedy and a complete waste of potential. And really, 2 G movies in as many years?
What are the odds?
It's like Dante's Peak and Volcano all over again. but make no mistake, G20 is pure propaganda. The subtext of the film is that world leaders are good folks looking out for the best interests of their people. Digital currencies are nothing to be feared, and being angry about how your government treats you is not productive. This movie is,
how do you do, fellow kids?
In cinematic form. Let's be clear here. Propaganda films come in many shapes and sizes, funded or manipulated by many different sources. One of the most notable examples of propaganda in film is the 1938 anti-marijuana flick, Reefer Madness. The film was initially funded by a church group with a very specific purpose in mind. They wanted to dissuade minors from using drugs by lying about their effects in the most ludicrous way possible. Similarly, Battlefield Earth is Travolta-backed propaganda for Scientology. Governments around the world have been using film and television and radio and everything they could get their grubby little hands on to manipulate their people since the invention of those technologies.
Let us not forget that in TV we have the greatest instrument for mass persuasion in the history of the world.
This is no secret. And like I said, this is governments around the world. It's not restricted to the US or North America. Every government with the ability to create propaganda has made propaganda.
Shut up, shut up!
The question is just, to what extent?
You may also believe that the facts have been exaggerated.
Here is a non-exhaustive list of movies that required script approval from the United States Department of Defense. That doesn't mean that the DoD had complete control over the script. It doesn't mean that these movies are pure, unfiltered government bullshit. For some, if not most of these movies, it just means that a government organization was involved in the film to some extent, and the Department of Defense wanted to make sure they weren't being portrayed in an overly negative light. The US Office of War Information had a unit dedicated exclusively to Hollywood, the Bureau of Motion Pictures. Between 1942 and 1945, they reviewed over 1,600 scripts, revising or discarding anything that portrayed the US unfavorably. And to state the obvious, this is just a list of some of the movies that required script approval. If we included movies that were funded by government agencies or other vested interests, well, we'd be here for hours.
This is nothing. This is nothing.
And you have to ask yourself, would you give someone a huge sum of money to have them make you look like an absolute idiot? Sure, some of you might, you masochists. But on the whole, most of us would not. Almost no one funds a movie with the intention of being the butt of the joke. You don't bite the hand that feeds you. The takeaway is this. Any movie that pushes a particular cause or point of view, be it cultural or political or whatever, well, that's propaganda, son. Triumph of the Will, Birth of a Nation, Battleship Potemkin, Soy Cuba. Yes, obviously, these are some classic examples. But how about modern flicks like Zero Dark 30, Don't Look Up, Civil War, or Conclave? Yep. All of them and many more.
And there are hundreds of them coming up, new ones every day.
G20 is just the latest in a long line of propaganda films used to sway public opinion. That's not to say that it should be dismissed just because it may have been designed as such.
Sensationalism, which is a lie in an entertainment medium.
There's nothing wrong with acknowledging a media product as propaganda, but also recognizing its artistic merit. There are plenty of great movies that fall into this category, and it's completely fine and okay to recognize them as artistic achievements. The problem with G20 is that it's so incompetent and clumsy that it becomes too obvious to ignore.
How could they film this? It's got to be a deep fake.
Everyone involved should be absolutely ashamed of themselves.
It was horrible.
Okay, wow, this whole thing turned into a bit of a rant. Anything else? No, that's it. Okay, we'll see you next time.